For now, we'll need just this information for calculating the center of mass, okay? The radial distance of the center of mass. And we'll be calculating the center of mass of various kinds of systems. Say center of mass of a disk, which is shaped like this, okay? And origin is over here, okay? And it's not just uniform distribution, but non-uniform distribution also. So just imagine this: there's a disk which is half cut, and the origin is over here. So we'll calculate the center of mass of this disk. It's uniformly distributed, and we'll also calculate, say if there's the same disk, the origin is over here, but the mass density is not uniformly distributed. For example, it's distributed in different cross sections, in the sense that this will have a particular density. This will have maybe a high density of mass per unit volume. This will have even a high density of mass per unit volume. And this will have the maximum density of mass per unit volume. And then we need to calculate the center of mass of such system. So in the exam, sometimes it may come to calculate the center of mass of such kind of different kind of system. But again, we need to just use the same formulas which you already have and use them, apply them on that system. First, we need to find where the origin is, and then apply the formula which we have gotten. And then using that, we'll be able to calculate the center of mass of that whole system, okay? So such kind of questions are actually asked in the exam sometimes. So we are done with that. So just seeing out the properties of the center of mass once again, that the center of mass of the whole body, the radial coordinates of the center of mass, or the center of mass of the whole body is such that we can assume that the mass of the whole body is concentrated at that point, okay, which we did in this derivation also. So if we have extended body, we can assume a point here, and we can, after calculating the center of mass, say this is the center of mass, and we can assume that the mass of the whole body is concentrated at this point, say, and this mass is M. So this is the first property of the center of mass, that the whole mass of the body can be assumed to be concentrated at that point. And the second property is that the net external force, which was initially acting on the whole body, we can assume that force is acting on just this center of mass, or this concentrated mass M, okay? So net external force can be assumed acting on center of mass, and second thing is total mass of the body can be assumed to be concentrated at that point. All right. So these are the two basic properties. So now just see for ourselves some results that we can derive from this general formula. So we have our center of mass, which is, say, assume now that we have two particles again, and the expression for the center of mass is given by M1R1 plus M2R2 upon M1 plus M2. Okay. This is the coordinate of the center of mass. Now assume that one of the particles is placed at the origin. So we have this coordinate system. We have one particle, particle 2, at some coordinates R, R2, okay? And the second particle is there at the origin itself, which will mean that R1 is 0, okay? So for this case, if we put R1 as 0 over here, what we get is our center of mass equals M2 R2 M1 plus M2. Okay. So if we take M2 outside, what we get is our center of mass is M2 R2 M1 plus M2 divided by M2. Okay. So we took M2 outside. So here we need to also take M2 outside. But since there is no M2 over here, we multiply and divide by M2. So multiplying divide by M2, we take M2 over here. So this expression becomes like this. And the M2 and M2 get cancelled. Okay. Some of you, if you're not clear, I'll just write the full expression. So we multiply this by M2 upon M2. Okay. We take this M2 inside, and this M2 gets cancelled from this M2. And so we take this inside. When we take this inside, there is M1 plus upon M2 plus M2 upon M2. So M2 upon M2 would be 1. Okay. So what we'll have is R2 M1 upon M2 plus M2 upon M2, which is nothing but 1. So we'll just write 1 over here. All right. So now see this expression. Now see what happens. So we can have many cases, but just see the simpler cases. Now this is M1 over here, and this is M2 over here. Okay. So if M1 is very, very large compared to M2, so if this mass of M1 is very, very large compared to M2, what we'll have is, so case 1. Okay. We had if M1 is very, very greater than M2, this number is practically infinite. Okay, it's very great. So it's practically infinite. So this is 1 plus infinity, which is again infinity. So this will be R2 upon infinity, which will be practically 0. Okay. So what it shows is that if the origin is placed at one of the mass M1, and we have another mass M2 over here, and if M1 is very, very large compared to M2, then what will happen is that the center of mass of this system would be practically close to the origin itself, which is it will be practically close to M1 itself. Okay, it will lie probably at very near to the center of M1. Okay, and we are considering this case not because of some mathematical abstraction, but because we see these things in practical life. Because we have, for example, consider our solar system. We have the sun and we have the planets. So when we're calculating the center of mass of the system, okay, and if we place, so imagine this is the sun and this is one of the planets. So what will happen is, and we calculate the center of mass of the system lies very close to the sun. Okay. And why would we calculate the center of mass? Because we need to study how the planets and the sun are interacting with each other. We want to know the equations of motion of these planets. So that's why we calculate the center of mass of the system. And to simplify our calculation, we choose the coordinate system to be at the sun. Okay, because the choice of coordinate system is always upon us. We can always put the origin of the coordinates anywhere in our system, because the equations of motions of the actual particles are independent of where you choose the coordinate system. Because if we have a ball over here and if you throw it on the ground, it doesn't matter, and we need to predict how the ball will go down as a function of time, what will be its motion. It doesn't matter if we choose the coordinate system at the ground or we choose it 2 meters above the ground. The result it will get will be the same, because that result will be how the ball is moving. How the ball is moving will not depend upon where we'll choose the coordinate system. That equation of motion will remain the same. So where do we choose a coordinate system? We choose a coordinate system in such a way that it makes us easier to solve the system that we have. So when we are trying to solve the system for the sun or one of the planets, we choose the coordinate system at the sun, okay? Because we know because sun is very, very large compared to the planets, when we calculate the center of mass of the system, it will lie very at the origin itself. And that will make our calculation easier, okay? So, yeah, this is the same thing. And this case 2, in case you assume that m1 equals m2. So instead of the sun and or one of the planets, what we have here now is that both of them are planets of kind of equal mass. Okay. So then where will be the center of mass? So in that case, we again put this thing in our equation. So our center of mass is okay, this is the general equation. But now since m1 and m2 are the same, so this is nothing but let this be m1 plus equals to m2. Since they are same, so we can just assume both of them are equal to the mass m. So we substitute this back here, and this is nothing but mr1 plus mr2 m plus m. Okay, so this m plus m is 2m. Now we take mass and mass, both of this m outside. So this will be just nothing but m r1 plus r2. All right. Now this m and m will get cancelled. So what we get is our center of mass in this case, where m1 is equals to m2, is nothing but r1 plus r2 upon 2. What this means is the center of mass will lie. So this is r1 was this is r2, and also the second part, the first particle was at the origin itself. So which means r1 is also 0. So this gives r2 by 2. Okay, because r1 is the coordinate of the first particle, but since the particle is placed at the origin itself, so r1 is 0. So what we get is center of mass of such a system in which we have two particles of same mass, one at origin, one at a distance, radial distance r2, would be placed at r2 by 2, which will be the midpoint of this. So this will be our center of mass. So which means that center of mass of two particles which have a similar mass, or say two big bodies also of similar mass, lies at the center of these bodies. Okay, it lies more precisely, it lies at the center of the line joining these two bodies. So this is the two bodies, this is a line joining these two bodies, and we just found the center of mass lies exactly midway between these two bodies. Okay, so these are the two practical cases which we discussed just to get an idea of where the center of mass lies in a system of particles. Okay, so first we calculated. So till now we have defined initially what is the center of mass. Center of mass is nothing but if we have an extended body and there's a force acting on the extended body, we need to find and we need to solve that. We need to find the equation of the motion of the extended body. To simplify our calculation, we assume that the force is acting not on the whole body but on a point inside the body, and we define that point to be the center of mass of the body. And this point has two properties. First property is we can assume that whatever the external force is acting, it is acting not on the whole body but on that point particle. And the second on that point object, or say point particle, whatever. And the second property is that that point particle we have has the mass of the whole body. Okay. So then we discussed and we find out the expression for the center of mass. Okay, the general expression for the center of mass. which is nothing but our center of mass is summation of m1 r1 plus m2 r2 and whatever number of particles are there divided by m1 plus m2 and whatever number of particles are there. That is the total mass. We found out the general expression for finite particles and also for practically infinite particles if you have a rigid body. And after that, we just consider these two cases, that if we have two particles, the system has two particles or two bodies, where will the center of mass lie if they have similar masses? Second case. And the first case is if one of the mass is practically very, very large compared to the other mass. Okay. We did this just to get an intuitive idea of where the center of mass lies. So we can see the center of mass lies always towards the heavier body. If the body is extremely heavy compared to the other body, the center of mass will lie practically at the center of the body. And if it's normally heavier, it's slightly heavier than the second body, the center of mass will not lie at the midpoint, but slightly towards the second body from the midpoint. So two bodies, if this is m1, this is m2. If m1 is very, very extremely greater than m2, then the center of mass will lie somewhere over here. Okay. If m1 in the second case, this is m1 very, very large than m2. Second case, if m1 is slightly larger than m2, not too much. So the center of mass, this is the midpoint. The center of mass will lie somewhere over here. Okay, somewhere over here, because m1 is slightly heavier than m2, so the center of mass will be slightly shifted towards m1. And if m1 equals m2, the center of mass will lie exactly at the center. Okay. Similarly, if m2 is slightly heavier, the center of mass would be somewhere over here. And m2 is very, very heavier than m1, then the center of mass will lie practically near m2. Okay. So using this, you can get an intuitive idea of where the center of mass of the system lies. Okay. So now you can also intuitively imagine that if we have a rectangle and it has some mass distribution, it's a plain sheet which has a certain mass distribution all over. So, and the mass distribution is such that if this is half of the sheet, then this sheet has a higher mass density. Let this be new one. This is a higher mass density than this part of the sheet, which is new 2. So intuitively, now we can very easily see that the center of mass will, of course, lie somewhere this side and not on this side. And if this sheet is practically infinitely heavier than this part of the sheet, then the center of mass will lie nowhere but at the center of this sheet. Okay. So whenever we have a different kind of mass distribution, so this was a simple mass distribution, we can always get an intuitive idea of where the center of mass would lie. And so when we are actually, so in the exam, if this question comes, find the center of mass of some very complex system, which is at different mass density at different parts, and we try to solve that, and we arrive at a result to actually, so like we discussed in the last class, in physics, whenever you get the result of the question which has been asked, in some way or the other, you can always use your intuitive abilities or some slight mathematical tricks to find an approximate guess that whether the answer is right or wrong. So in this case, for example, if this question came in the exam, although the questions are slightly more complex, and you try to solve it mathematically, and your answer came out that center of mass lies somewhere over here. But since this is heavier, it is supposed to lie over here. So you have made some mistake in your derivation. So even in a complex system, you should always try to develop an intuitive idea of where the center of mass would lie. Okay.